as a man with experience, tell me why I don't want to open up a car auction. It seems like the best idea going.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a money license to print money, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, well, he's done it all. Been there, got the t-shirt. So tell us.
Well, I'm going to tell you how it started, but it started. I finished quite strange as well, because I didn't finish it or stop it because it wasn't working. It was down to a dispute with a landlord or landlady. Like Bud below even mentioned her name about probably after. Um, so I always had the idea of running an auction early on, and I did nearly find this site. Actually, was in Crewe where I am now, and he never quite got there. And then a few years later, I'd say I got back sort of running again, because I've gone from, I had a really bad spell during the 2010 where I pretty much lost everything. And then I started rebuilding, and I had a garage, and then I managed to move on from that. And then, because I've got qualified as an MOT tester, doing a bit there, and I've got to get a garage, set up a little place for an MOT station. That was the plan first. The auction didn't come until actually I got the lease. So I got the lease for this building, and then I was going to put an MOT bay in it. I decided on the back of that, because next door was a bigger unit, which I looked at. I wasn't really interested. It was a bit too dear. But they kept MPECing me, the agent, saying, "Oh, we'll do you really cheap, blah, blah, blah." And I just started thinking, what can I do with it? What logically could I do with it? It's not big enough for the garage. It's too big for the garage, sorry. And then I thought, let's thought about the auction. So took it on, and then thought, right, we're going to set up an auction. So scrap the MOT idea. We did set up a garage in the MOT station. It was about a year later after the auction. And I decided that where I was going to target was, again, the cheaper end of the market, because most auction houses, with all the big names, we know Aston Martin, BCA, etc., and etc., they all go to the bigger dealers usually, because they just want to go one site, pick up 40 cars, get them in, brand it, done, dusty, right? And that's what they do the deals with. But they're not really that interested in the independents who've got 2 or 3 Part X's that come in every other week, because they're not necessarily going to pick them all up, not one or two. So I always thought, there's quite a lot of dealers around here, and they've got loads of little Part X's, and in reality, they've got to take them to the auction, and we all know how much of a pain that can be able to put my car in the auction. It's all that time. So I went around and sort of scoped and thought, there's a load of interest in this. And that's how I set it up. So we're selling stuff pretty much under $3,000, cheapy stuff, going the auctions, just literally saying, look, trust me, we'll get these picked up, clean them up, put them through, working on small margins, buy a fee, sort of lead, and go from there. And it started from that. And literally, we set it up on a absolute shoestring. There probably is a video. I've got a video somewhere, really grainy video of it. It probably can't make any sense of it, actually, because it sounds terrible. But here's somewhere I'll
What was
find it.
it called, Lee? I'll see if I can find this
Winsford
video.
Auctions, it was called. We were in Winsford then. And literally, I mean, we set it up in a room. We went to B&Q, bought all the wood and like a repositioned, reclaimed like some tables and made a really fit rostrum. We obviously have no auctioneer, so I had to make, right, I'll be the auctioneer, because I've been to enough auctions. It can't be that hard. So we did auctioning. We built a cafe out of, timber frame and all that. Was interested trying to get that signed off by the elf people. Yeah, and just set it up, and it worked. It took a while. It was really hard in the first few months. First night we set up, I remember it was bonfire night, and we had 200 people in, and we sold 2 cars. No one was bidding. They were all standing there like that, and they didn't know what to do, because there'd never been an auction like that in the Cheshire area. No one had done it. So but eventually, the next day, with people come back and we was inquiring, and we managed to get a few more sold. And the next week, you do a bit better and a bit better and a bit better. And then a few years down the line, we got to a point where we'd overgrown the site, got too big. We then started having issues with the land. Well, not so much the neighbours. It was, you found it. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I guess that's you on the rostrum there, Lee.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
You looked a bit bulkier then.
Well, it was cold. It was winter, but yeah, I was heavy then. I'd lost a lot of weight about 4 years ago. I was probably about 17 stone there.
Yeah,
But
lightweight.
that's what auction did to you. When I first set up the auction, I was 13 and a half stone. When I come out of it, I was nearly 17 stone. That was it. It just controlled my life 7 days a week, picking up cars, doing everything. It was the most stressful thing I've ever done. I enjoyed it. It was brilliant, but it is immensely stressful. So, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of moves. So this is probably what, Nick, 10 years ago. This is an old shogun there.
Yeah,
Well, we
yeah.
did get the cheapy stuff, because I said there was no real outlet for it. If you know what I mean? Because The big dealer groups, they're not interested in that stuff because they don't make any money out of it. You know what I mean? It's almost, it's an inconvenience for them to pick up this stuff. They just have to pick it up because they can't turn around to your own clock and say, well, we don't really want them, because they'll just go, well, piss off then. We'll take it somewhere else. So, so it was quite a good idea, really. And we were always full. We got a lot of private entries and stuff. It was, I do sort of miss it, but I wouldn't do it again. So
What were your fees then? What did you charge people for buying fees then?
funnily enough, I've still got the feed board in the back room with the car pitch now. It started, I think, from, I'm guessing now, but I think a 200 quid car would have been about £60 on top then, 10 years ago. It wasn't a lot. £1,000 would have been about 150. It was sort of that level. Private people would get a lot of fees off. Most of the independents actually would pay a standard 50 quid fee. They weren't fussed, really. We did quite a popular one with, particularly on the really stuff that was end of life, no reserve, no fee. And that was brilliant because people just put stuff in and just chance it. They were going to scrap them anyway. Someone else might look at it from a different perspective and they do 400 quid in the car and pay any fees. So it worked. I had the wife there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's brilliant.
yeah, it was. We ran it on a shoestring, literally, over the first few months. I remember that this is very, very early on. But the first day it was packed, and I said we only sold 2 cars, and came into the office afterwards. I know I had a breakdown because we literally had about £80 left to our name. Literally, that's all I had. I'm not no joke when people say, "Oh well, I was really tough for me. We nearly ran out of money and blah blah." No, literally, I had £80 to my name. That's all we had. We had to take money out of the deposits to pay the drivers on the nights for what had come, because that's how bad it got. And I generally thought it was going to fail. But then, they say we got a few more sales over the line, and next week did a bit better. And within a year, we had a good business out of it. But unfortunately, it come to an end because we just got into altercations with the landlady. And from day one, I'm not saying we didn't cause the odd problems with space and stuff. We got poo packed for me, needed a bigger site. That was clear. But there was a way of going about it. And terrible vendetta, not just against us, but everyone on the side. I've never seen someone, a landlord or landlady, who was so just sort of targeting their own tenants to the point where you'd make them dislike them, the landlords.
We had exactly the same. We had a female landlord of the place before I was here, and she was very, very much like that. Very much like that. Yeah, literally no one there. Like, you just come by all the time, picking on stuff. It's really weird, and didn't quite understand it. We were all getting on, rubbing along all together. We'd have a little bit of space off one person, another off other one. We'd be like, yeah, no problem. She'd come along. No, you shouldn't have it there. You shouldn't have it there. And they were like, yeah, but we're all cool. There's no problem.
Where it all come about, why it came to them was because when I took it on as an MOT station, and in the lease, great big lease document, it was there for basically multi trade purposes. So then I thought, well, I'm going to open an auction up. It's multi trade. It's fine. Don't worry about it. 2 months later, obviously, she then realised we were doing an auction. She's come on a site visit and then said, "You're running an auction." I said, "It's multi trade. What's the problem? It's got so many terms of use." And literally, there's a one-line document on this 80-page document. There's a one-line paragraph that is saying, "No sale by public auction." In this document, not allowed to run an auction of any. It could be any auction. No allowed to run an auction. So in the end, I just saying, "You've got to stop doing this, blah blah blah." And then we're 2 months in. I mean, literally was scraping by. And I just called the bluff and said, "Get rid of them. Maybe bankrupt. You don't get a penny out of me. I'll go to bankrupt court. Fill all the forms in. Everything. There you go. Send them off to you. We're going to go claim myself bankrupt. Not bothered. Do you want? Get rid of me." And in the end, she backed down and said, "Right, we'll give you temporary use, but we can withdraw it anytime we like." This is coming later on, years later. So we go on for the next few years. We're doing okay. We had the odd occasion, spaces, but it got worse towards the end because by this point, when we took the unit on early days, this was just out of obviously the recession side of it. And she'd had it empty for years and years, and we come in, got it dirt cheap, and now things are recovered. Now people are inquiring. It's a car supermarket. Funny enough, we ended up doing a lot of work for them. We did quite, well out of them, and we good terms. But they inquired about it, thinking that of the suspicion that I was somehow going to give up this building. But as soon as that was on the table, all of a sudden, need him out again because I can get 3 times as much rent from these chaps here, and these are better suited. So she asked me politely first, "Would we go?" I was like, "No, I'm not going. Got business, we're happy." Then it started. Then it turned into a 6-month campaign to try and get me out. And it was literally solicitors' letters after solicitors' letters. You have to pay for her solicitors' letters. She'd send 3 a week, 250 quid at the time. I have to reply to the solicitors' letters for these supposed breaches, which were never proper breaches. These breaches, you have to apply to them. So I was paying a solicitor myself to reply we're spending £1,000 a week on solicitors' fees, just consumer letters, ridiculous letters. And it got to the point where at one point she had the janitor for the site on a roof of a building opposite and sit there in a deck chair all day, taking pictures of a customer who'd come to the auction, park a car outside of our allocated parking spaces, send it to the solicitors by email, who'd write a letter with the picture in, send it to us and say, that person's in breach of, you haven't put parts on correctly, you're in breach, you need to rectify it in 7 days. And it's like, well, went 2 minutes after the picture was taken. But the point being that it was a breach, technically, and I have to pay for the letter and I have to reply to it. Because if I don't reply to it, then after 7 days, you can come change the locks. So it was that way on for 6 months. But luckily, because we're making all right money, we just went, no, I'm not bound down to it. I don't care. If she wants to take us to court, we'll just say it's harassment. And it got to the point when, and eventually it did stop. And then eventually she must have realised that she'd gone back for the paperwork and give us this permission. She just withdrew the permission in one day. And I always remember it was an auction day, Tuesday night, dead busy, really good sales. Well, we actually had on back of it, but it was really busy. And there was about 20 minutes beforehand, and a FedEx van turned up. Guy made me sign this letter, and I knew straight away what it was. Opened it up, and it said, you've got to stop from today onwards. You're not allowed to run an auction anymore. Your permission has been withdrawn. That's the end of it. Anyway, we went on with the auction. Went the next day, spoke to them, and I just I'd had enough by this point. It was stressing me out that much, and I thought, right, I'll go, and we'll do a deal. And we did a deal, and I departed. I kept my original test station building. It was separate. Lucky that was nothing to do with it. It wasn't in breach even there. So we auction had to stop, and we did look to try and set it up somewhere else. Well, so during the process, I thought, you know what? I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do it. I've done it now. I've itched that scratch, and yeah, it was good, but I focused on something else. Wow, you got the idea of doing one, Joe? You seem to want to.
No, I've thought of it before. I thought, that's got to be like the ultimate car trade thing. You can sell them, you make your fee. You don't have to own the product that's being sold.
I bet you still got people blaming you, though, didn't you?
The auctions.
Yeah, for cars that had problems. No?
No. We did actually. We the old system actually. So years ago, when I don't know if you see how long you guys have been all the doing. I know, 4 or 5 years. I think you said, Joe, haven't you? But when I first started, the auctions, they used to have a system of it was sold as seen, or you had a trial or buyer's hour, we called it. So you have a trial on a vehicle, and you go around test driving or whatever, and you had an hour, and if you had a genuine fault, you brought it back, and you got your money back. That's how before Assured used to work. The golden hour. Mike Brewer will tell you about the golden hour. He's mentioned it a few times, but it was a good system, really, because then you knew what you're buying. You want to buy a sold scene car, you buy sold scene cars, or if you had a trial, they always did more money. So I operated on that, and it worked quite well. People understood, and we make it clear to them, look, sold scene is a trial. This is the difference. Every auction, we explain it to them. We never really had any issues, really. I think we maybe one, but it wasn't that bad. People understood they were going to auction and buying. It seems to be now with the Assured reports in the modern era, that's a lot of traders who take them things too seriously. I mean, I understand why, because you think, well, we're paying for it, and if something goes wrong, and you want to try and get some benefit back from them, and whatever, or refund or whatever. But it must come from the old way of just thinking, just take the chance and just pay and see what happens. You know what I mean? I just use it as a guide.
Golden hour, Dave, not golden shower. All right. Am I right in saying, though, the reason you can't go and buy a car from BCA now as a consumer is because it doesn't matter what you say as an auction, if you're a business selling to a consumer, it falls under the Consumer Rights Act?
No, it was the exemption of the Sales of Goods Act, which wasn't which auctions run by. So anything sold by public auction is comes to the Sales of Goods Act is completely exempt. You consumer business, it doesn't make a difference. You all treat the same. Where it changes slightly is if you've got the Trade Description Act. So then if you then, like an Assured report, if you are saying this car is got nothing wrong with it, stuff like that, that's different. I just don't think BCA want consumers in, public in. I think they just want to be trade-led, because they probably had a lot of most traders playing and stuff who's letting the public in, and they just decided to go down that way. Because, I mean, G3 allowed public in, and Aston Barclay allowed the public.
Does that mean if you put a car onto eBay then and give no description, then theoretically it's been under public auction and there should be no comeback?
Yes, public auction. Yeah, I used to have all the terms and conditions, sales of goods on the walls, but I don't know where they are now. But yeah,
I always assumed if I put something on eBay and someone came and bought it, then it would just fall under the Consumer Rights Act because they came and bought it.
it's because you're a dealer selling it. It's specifically for auction houses. So you have to prove
Oh, okay, right.
for that. I mean, the main, it's pretty easy to prove your insurance policies, or you join one of the organisations, the National Association of Auctioneers, I think it was called then. But yeah, it's different for auctions. That's what
Right, I'm online. I'm just registering myself as an auction house, and I'm going to join some associations. And
What
everything I do from now on, I'm clean as a whistle.
I've forgotten the name of the chap. He's on one of the groups. He did a post. It was a bit controversial. Who's it? He's a YouTuber as well.
Oh, not Callum. Not
Calvin.
Calvin.
Is it
Oh,
Calvin you talk about?
He's a lovely lad. I love his content. That's not legal. I'm telling you now.
No. If you read the front of his website, how the hell does he get away with that?
Because probably no one's going to take him to task over it at the court. And if he did, he'd probably just, he'd have to get him on. Be interesting.
It's a screamer model, isn't it? It's got to be a screamer model.
Yeah.
I call them screamer models. You do it, and and then every now and then someone will kick off, and you just get rid of them.
You get taken to the edge, don't you? And then eventually you go, fine, you give in. I think that's more that model. But you're given a perception in it. Again, it's marketing in it. It's perception. That's the thing, isn't it? And the same when we've all seen these trade sites. We've got one local to us called Repossessions, which is part of Cinetic Group now. They look like that, and they market themselves of they're just part exchanges. They're coming in. They're your wash and clean them. They're not trying to be down the dealer consumer route like that. They're trying to make out like they're selling to businesses, but you can come and buy it, stuff like that. Reality, from a legal standpoint, they're under the same terms as what we are. So they're not get out of it. But probably is. Let's say 7 out of 10 of people don't go back with a fault because we can't, because it's trade.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like 3-month warranties, isn't it? You put it through. Oh, it's
you're reducing your risk probably of claims coming back. So it's I'm not saying it doesn't work. It definitely will work, but you're not gonna. You would eventually end up in a court. You would lose.
And you wouldn't be able to run it being a softie. You can't be a softie and run that kind of business model.
Hard as nails. I mean, I'd give in straight away. You know what I mean?
I'd be useless for that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you, Lee. I've been saying exactly the same thing with that buy it now car auction binker type thing.
Yeah.
Because it's people are like, oh, it can't be legal and it can't be legal, and people are saying, well, he's been getting away with it sort of thing. And it's like you said, I think it's just setting the expectation. I've said to people before, if you're selling like a cheap car, you're almost better off saying, oh, well, yeah, we'll give you a month's warranty on it or whatever. And even if you're then covered under consumer rights for 6 months, they might get to 6 weeks in and have some problem with it that might be covered under the Consumer Rights Act. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shirk my responsibilities whatsoever. I'm just saying the way the mentality works is like, oh, we had a month's warranty. It didn't happen in that time. That's annoying. Never mind, we'll sort it. It's already set up the expectation for them that because they bought it from this auction site where they had to pay an auction fee and whatever, that they don't have any comeback. Because it's quite, I love the fact that he's gone with this Dutch auction, which basically they just reduce the auction price until they find a buyer. And that's how a Dutch auction works. I'm like, that's like retailing a car. That's what all of us do. We put up a price we want. If no one buys it, we drop it a little bit, and then we drop it a little bit. So we're all running Dutch auctions, really.
I mean, I've seen videos with him, and he has refunded people on cars and stuff like that. And sometimes he does full retail cars as well, doesn't he? I know he does full retail cars. So, I mean, he's not doing anything wrong in itself at all, is he? And again, what's wrong with someone turning up at their premises and knowing that's a score which they're buying the goods under? I mean, the only reason there's a problem with it is because the government's decided that person doesn't know their own mind. They're not responsible for any issues afterwards because they're not a qualified car buyer and however else they want to word it. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with someone turning up somewhere and saying, do you know what? I'm a big boy now. I can make my decision. I want to buy it knowing that if anything goes wrong with it later on, it's my lookout.